Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene, except you're looking at Cheryl. Cheryl is back. Give us a book review. You saw Cheryl when we were up at the cottage back around January. She was with our friend Sandy and we talked about books then. And like a good person, I don't remember what books they were. So Cheryl is here to talk about which book?
Oh, the Brave Music by Dorothy Evelyn Smith.
And that's part of the British women's literary series that I was talking about. So this book, do you remember what year it's from, Cheryl?
She wrote it in 1943, or published in 1943.
Right.
Yeah.
And can you give us a brief synopsis? You can read the inside if you want.
I could read a little bit. It's about a young girl, so it's the retelling of the woman's childhood up through adolescence. Her name is Ruan Ashley, and it's set just before the First World War, and it's about her family and her adventures, and it takes her through. Oh, no, I lost it. It takes her through. You can just edit this anyway. It takes her from her.
Not.
Okay, all right, fine. I don't care. Do whatever you want. It takes her from her family, her insular family, and then there are several events that happen there that are very sad, and then she sort of goes on an adventure, but her constant connection is to the farm on the moor, and it is a beautiful, beautiful book. Yeah.
And where are the moors located?
Well, I was trying to think of this, because when I read a book, I'm very much about the character and the moment to moment, but it sounds, and I went through to try to sort of reconcile. She was schooled in Yorkshire, the author herself, Dorothy Evelyn Smith. And the accents that are detailed here sound very northern England, and certainly there's a moment where someone goes off to Blackpool. So I think it's the north of England is the setting, yeah.
And so it was set in 1943 or published?
No, it's set pre-World War I.
Okay.
But published in 1943. But the author describes herself as, during the Second World War, she turns her hand to novels. Now it says at the rear of the book, a description of the plight of women, which I think is the point of this series, is that she was writing several smaller articles, essays for magazines, and because of the paper shortage during the Second World War, there were no more publications or significantly reduced numbers. So she turns her hand, it says, to writing novels. And she describes herself as writing on the end of the kitchen table with bombs falling all around the house.
Oh my gosh.
I know, yeah.
Now, so what is the name of the protagonist?
Ruan.
Oh, yes,
Ruan
you said
Ashley,
that, yeah. So what did you like the most about the character?
I was thinking about this because you asked me to do this, and my initial sense was she's just pure emotion, and not in a sappy, saccharine kind of way. It's really interesting that the adult Ruan is telling her story of this from the 7-year-old up to about the 14 or 15-year-old Ruan with the same joy in life that 7-year-old Ruan had, right? And it was quite remarkable.
And did you picture her in your head? Like, did you create a persona?
I did, yeah. But it's very well drawn out, and not because it's told in, now I almost get confused. It's first person. So she's describing herself in the ways that she does not conform. So she's the daughter of a nonconformist, actually, minister, and she loves her father, but he's very, very distant. She adores her mother, but there's something kind of uncomfortable in there too. She doesn't match anybody in the story. Her mother's incredibly beautiful. Her older daughter Sylvia is incredibly beautiful, just like the mother. And she describes herself, Ruan, as this thick black hair that's impossible to control, and finally her mother just hacks it all off, and she's mistaken for a boy, which actually makes her quite happy sometimes, because she doesn't want to be the pretty girl. She doesn't want to be the well-mannered girl. She wants to run around on the moors and throw herself down in the heather and have comfortable pants on and a comfortable jersey, and it comes up through the book. She's criticized by several characters as not wanting to grow up, and she doesn't really want to grow up. But there's a moment where she's quite happy to grow up because she sees quite clearly what her future will be, and
Does it look like a good future?
It looks like a very good future. Okay. Yeah, she's the relationship is essentially between Ruan and she meets a young man named David, who's 5 years her elder, and they just form this really wonderful, strong friendship. And so, I think what was lovely about the book was it was always filled with joy, even when there were sad events. They were just so honestly, and not even innocently, just honestly described as the sadness. But the relationship to David is so strong that you feel like she has to end up with David, but there are a few twists and turns. And at one point I thought, okay, like I'm kind of all right if she doesn't end up romantically with David, because this friendship will always be there. So there were a few emotional twists and turns, and I kind of reared against them and then thought, no, like she's so purely 100% herself that wherever she ends up is going to be okay because she's Ruan.
Because there's a personal integrity to the character.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been reading a couple of books, and Steve and I have been talking about them, and one of our comments has been that the characters don't have any internal integrity to them, and so then the plot goes off in different directions. You think, but this doesn't make any sense. But so the plot on this one, is it more like a chronological episodic sort of description, or is there a goal that she's trying to achieve?
There's no, she's trying not to grow up, basically, is the goal.
Right.
But time goes by, and so she is going to grow up. It's about the relationships, and I think that's what really drew me to it. It's about the relationships that she has with her sister, with her mother and father. School kids, they're forced to go to the school, and the mother is from a very well-to-do family, and because she's married the nonconformist minister, she's shunned by her family. So she brings a youth that was filled with wealth, and now she's in this minister's house and judged by all the women around her, and not very happy. So there are relationships, good or bad. So they end up going to this school that the mother does not approve of because it's not good enough for her children, and the father says, they have to go because otherwise we'll be judged by our nonconformist clergy, not clergy, congregation.
Yeah, like one way or another you're doomed.
That's right. So the relationships, all of these relationships drive, you see the growth and the evolution of these relationships throughout the book. And but the constant is the farm, where there's a very beautiful young woman who's probably 10 to 15 years older than Ruan, and she's in a manner that she's not comfortable in because her father has started this factory and is now wealthy, but he's new wealth, and she's not comfortable with the wealth. In fact, that's keeping her from becoming a happy person. So, but she's the farm and this character whose name I can't even remember now, but they're very important to Ruan as well. It's her happy place.
You described before we started filming, you were describing the moor at all. What's the most intriguing part of the moor? Was there a season that was particularly evocative, or was there a weather moment, or what made the moor so?
For me, I think she describes the seasons beautifully, but she does attach joy to the autumn and the colors and the freshness to the air. Summer is not really described with any great amount of enthusiasm, I think, probably because they're wearing a lot of clothing, right? I mean, even on the farm, she has to wear, she's wearing pants and all that sort of thing, but it's hot. I love the autumn, so that's probably why I gravitated towards, or was in sync with her descriptions of the autumn. But the colors, and I think that's sort of when they shine too, the spring and the heather coming out, and then the autumn and the golds and the roiling clouds, and and I think what the joy that she feels in the freedom that she has on the moor is a really important part of it too.
So you said at the beginning that this was about women who really don't have a whole lot of, would you say empowerment, or in what way does she transgress or conquers that?
I think that she, because her elder sister Sylvia is the quintessential little lady, she's got a bit more freedom. Ruin's the younger one. So, I mean, there's a combination of situation that Sylvia can be the one to sort of to perform as is required. But Ruin really wasn't going to perform anyway. And along the way, she has these significant people in her life. So there's the woman on the farm who has a lovely northern Yorkshire accent. And then there's her uncle. So when the mother is shunned, she has one remaining sibling who's an uncle who stays on the Cobbetts is the home, the family home. So eventually Sylvia and Ruin make their way to the Cobbetts and they live with their uncle. And he is a very sympathetic character. He's been very happy to just stay in his study and look at books. And Ruin is a lover of books and learning, and so they really connect. And he supports her as well in being who she wants to be.
So for women of her generation, the author's generation, but as well as her readership who may have been younger or older, what would have been the key characteristic of Ruin that would have sang for them, do you think? Was it her sort of indifference to societal norms, or was it her clarity of vision about what she wanted, or?
I don't know if it would have been because of the times. I guess the freedom of the support, maybe even that she received from people, that to know that in the world there are people who will support you to go outside of the norms, right? The passion that Ruin has for learning, and that it is supported, and it's not that she doesn't hold her back. She refuses to be held back. So she's just going to be who she is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned David as well. Is he part of helping her to... She doesn't really ever seem to be without the freedom. Does he help her to expand that? Or is he a sort of along for the ride?
There's an instant connection between the two of them, and because he's 5 years elder, so it's 7 and 12, they're playmates essentially. Within another 3 years, that shifts and changes a little bit, but he's even though Ruin expresses concern that they are growing up, or that he is growing up, and that he won't be the same, he's always the same. He always comes back to the comfort that he feels with her. Ruin is being her true self. And David is, even though you wonder, because people grow up and become who they think they're supposed to be, David is actually put in a situation where he may not be able to become who he wants to be, but then we see that he will be able to sort of become the adult with the purpose that he wants to be. But as David at the core and the person and the friend, he remains constant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are like superheroes in a way, aren't they? I mean, that's so much what we battle against. I don't know. I seem to think our kids are better at that kind of integrity, but we kind of got lost along the way.
Well, I think that our generation was still taught to be the Sylvia, and to wear the right clothes and to say the right things and to not make a fuss. And you know, Ruin is she loves her name. She ends up loving her hair at some point, you know? But she's it's interesting. I'm just thinking, because this is what I do, right? Is how do I know what I think until I've heard what I'm about to say? The fact that she's from a nonconformist church, which was actually very conforming, right? A nonconformist church, but she was a nonconformist, and I loved it. Yeah.
So what Cheryl and I have been doing, she got voluntold for this. I picked up 4 books from the British Library series and gave Cheryl a book because during the pandemic we were languishing, and one of our challenges was
not in a sexy way.
No, not in a very good way at all. So one day we decided to mail each other something because we wanted to get something in the mailbox. So Cheryl, I'm walking away from the camera.
But she's not gone far, folks. She's just over there.
Can you show them?
Yes.
Cheryl painted me this lovely picture.
I painted her a picture of her table, because I just took a picture. I loved her tulips, and
over Zoom. And so then I received that in the mail, and Cheryl received this book in the mail, and I have read, what was it? Under the Heaven Tree, which Cheryl is now going to read eventually. It's like a...
No pressure.
That's right, no pressure. And I'm going to read this book, and then we will compare notes. So I believe, Cheryl, you would, if you were to rank this out of 5, like 1 out of 5, 5 being the best, would you give her a 5 or?
I would give her a 5.
Yeah.
I went to the cottage for some alone time on Friday, this past Friday. It is now Tuesday. It's time. It's 2 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, that's the 2 o'clock birdie, folks.
Oh, it's drunk. It says 3. It just did 3, it sounded like. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. I finished Margaret Atwood's The Blind Assassin the first evening I was there, and then I picked this up Saturday morning, and I could not put it down. And when I got home Monday afternoon, I did everything I needed to do and then said, right, I'm going upstairs for a nap because I wanted to finish it. I got teary at the end because I just was going to, it ended beautifully and I was going to miss the character. And I did not want to be near anybody and finish this book. I wanted to be completely alone with me and my dog. Yeah. And 5.
Cool.
5. Yeah.
Well, I don't think I really reviewed the book completely, guys, but I think I gave The Tree of Heaven about a 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll review my thing, and Cheryl and I will chat, and then we'll come back and have a wrap up of those 2 books. But if we like this little project, there are 2 more in the house, and those 2 right there.
I just noticed them.
And there's about 3 or 4 in the series. So if you're interested in this, I'll put a link below to where you can get them.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, the covers are just so
beyond
pretty.
anything else. Look how pretty.
They're so pretty.
Yeah.
They are perfect for languishing with.
Yes. And females.
Yeah.
We can languish with other fellow females.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And for those of you who don't know, Cheryl has the most gorgeous haircut. Everybody, thumbs up. Can we do it?
I'm not going to say anything foul, but I'm thinking a lot of foul things.
I love it. It's
COVID
gorgeous.
hair. Thank you.
So I hope all your reading dreams and excitements continue to come true, everybody out in BookTube. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Cheryl. Thank you.
Bye, Lorraine. You're welcome.